Welcome back to Collective Perspective. It's episode 40.
We are middle-aged now. Our show is middle-aged.
Craig, I know I said it before the show, but I need everybody to appreciate that hat. How cool is that freaking hat?
It's beautiful. Probably my favorite hat now. Shout out to Earthbound, the rare Super Nintendo game.
Let's talk about an Xbox leak that happened today. We're not like a news coverage type of show, but it is relevant for what we do in our hobby here. So without pulling up any graphics and just going off of mostly memory, what I saw today was, with all this crap going on with the FTC and Xbox trying to buy Activision and everything, they are constantly sharing documents with the FTC, I guess, and I guess, I don't know, they're involved in this court case, so a lot of documents are being moved back and forth, and things are being brought to the table. But the confidential right, the confidential stuff got leaked, and Xbox pretty much had their entire game plan for like the next 3 years or something, or 5 years laid out, and whatever government website it was on, it's down now. But it was up long enough for Wario64 to post it and get it out to the entire world.
It ain't going away now. That's for sure.
Essentially, there's a new Series something Xbox coming out. It doesn't have a disc drive, and that's mostly what we want to talk about today. More importantly, I guess, is there's a console they're planning to unveil in like 2028, I think it was, and that's not going to have a disc drive, and it's going to focus on, I think it said, a combination of apps and games or something like that. Essentially what they're saying is, we're moving away from physical media, and that's what we're going to talk about today. You saw the leak as well. What were your thoughts on the inevitable death that we've discussed many times?
I think Microsoft is a bunch of hypocrites saying that they're all about game preservation and all that kind of stuff, and then they're going to release consoles that aren't able to play, old games. That's kind of hypocritical.
Did they say
that? Yeah. That's supposed to be the whole initiative of releasing games digitally, like original Xbox, and the whole they make a big deal about backwards compatibility. I mean, that's definitely not going to be around all that much longer now, apparently. So I just find that kind of interesting, but it's sad to see, but it's kind of expected. I know that there has been sales data over the last couple of years showing that more people buy their games digitally than physically now, so it kind of makes sense to go that way, but I still will never not like having the option. It's like I have a USB CD-ROM that I could plug into my computer if I need to use or read a disc of some kind.
Do you really?
There's no reason for that. Yeah, but because there's no reason to not have that. I mean, and with consoles, I think you should be able to have the same choice. I mean, it's a big slap in the face to people that have been buying your games exclusively physically for the last, when did the Xbox One come out? In 2012? All those games, in theory, you would be able to play on your new console. But if you've been buying them physically, then, tough crap at this point. It's just kind of unfortunate.
You can still play them on the Series X. This is all for a console that's not releasing for half a decade from now. They're not taking away your ability. But it's still coming. It's still coming. It is coming for sure.
That's the thing, it's an inevitability now, and I think that's just kind of a bummer, Like, what if tomorrow I decide to start collecting Xbox physical games, and it's like, I guess I just have to hold on to that old console forever if I want to use them, They made such a big deal about backwards compatibility, and now it's gonna, yes, it's still technically backwards compatible, but it's not as useful if it's just for a digital file opposed to your actual media that you already own.
Craig, to play devil's advocate here, you have Sega Saturn games that you need the Sega Saturn to play still to this day, so that's not a very good argument.
True, but Sega never promised backwards compatibility, like, perpetually. That's like fair. Xbox did. Big difference. So here's a thing I find interesting, is you think this would be kind of a self-backstab in a way, with Phil Spencer complaining about, oh, we lost the worst generation to lose with the Xbox One because all the games going forward for now on forever are going to carry forward. So now that's not even completely true. If, like I said, you went the physical route, then you just are just crap out of luck, unfortunately.
They were probably looking forward to having 5 more years for people to forget about all the things they said, but now it's all coming to the table a little early.
Oh, well, no one speaks out of their butt more than Phil Spencer. I think he's a good presenter and a good face for a company, but he is notoriously a slimy CEO just like the rest of them, so...
I haven't done any research on that, so I cannot comment.
He's just a liar, that's all. But most people are liars, so... Especially when they're trying to run a business. They just want you to hear what you want to hear.
This is inevitable. I think Nintendo is going to be the last company to ditch physical media. I mean, PlayStation and Xbox both have a digital version of their consoles. And, since Steam came out, it has been a huge thing to have a digital marketplace. Since the Xbox Live and everything, this has been coming for over a decade. And... it's no surprise to anybody for sure, but I think Nintendo is going to have the Switch, and then they're going to make another console after this, and then once they see that everybody else is all digital, there's no stopping them at that point. They would have no reason to be... GameStop's not going to exist. They're not going to have a reason to exist. They're not going to make any money. So, yeah, it's not going to be long before we're in this all digital future.
True. But I could see Nintendo going longer than the rest of them regardless, though, because they know that their games sell physically very well still. I mean, they put out a physical of almost anything and everything because they know it'll sell well. So, I mean, they did not have to do a physical for Pikmin 1 and 2 remastered, and they still did. So, I could see them... And I mean, they know that Nintendo fans like to collect things. I mean, that's the whole point of Amiibo, So, I could see them... riding it out as long as possible, honestly, even after the other people still ditch it.
There's definitely an advantage to being the last company doing the physical thing, because you're going to have a whole bunch of hype. That'll be a huge marketing tactic. You'll have the credit of the masses who love owning things physically until it just can't become a viably, you're not profiting off of it anymore. But, something that I've gotten from Collector's Quest podcast, Johnny mentioned this before, theoretically you will be able to collect every single video game ever made as soon as this day comes. So after there's no more physical games being produced, a single human being could potentially, or a museum could own one of every single video game in the world, which would be quite the feat.
That would be awesome. That would be really cool. I mean, the ESRB library is probably the closest to a complete library of every video game. When you get ESRB certified, you have to send them 3 copies of your game. So they have at least 3 copies of every game that's ever been ESRB rated. Yeah, that's a true thing if you didn't know. So they probably have the closest. So, I mean, of course, there's tons and tons of games pre-ESRB, but theoretically... what you're saying is true, and that'll probably be the closest step to having all that stuff in one place, which would be cool if they ever do make a museum or something one day.
That would be insane. I had never heard of that before for the ESRB. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I listened to another podcast, a PlayStation podcast called Sacred Symbols, and they've made physical games and released games. And they mentioned that tidbit a couple of times, and I thought that was super interesting and really cool, so pretty neat.
That's freaking awesome. I bet that wasn't a thing when they first started. There's probably a few years where they didn't require that from Nintendo, PlayStation, Sega.
True, but that's still going to be a bigger library than probably any private collector, so...
That's very interesting. Then the freaking the Video Game History Foundation should be reaching out to them for games that they need. I'm not even kidding. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. The more you know.
We were talking about this, trying to think of some talking points, but the physical form of gaming media would go extinct, and this could possibly be the first of its kind. So you think to other forms of media that are collectible. You've got music, movies, comic books, regular books, trading cards. These are all still things that you can hold in your hand, purchase at Best Buy, whatever, and buy and own. And much to like my surprise, like people are still buying 4K Blu-rays and Blu-rays and crap, and like you can still go to Walmart and buy, I imagine, anything that came to the movie theater. You can still go buy that physically, which seems insane with the streaming services and like how few people are actually purchasing movies. But this would be the first of its kind, unless there's a collectible that we're not thinking of.
No, yeah, we were talking about this before the show, and I was thinking about this. Is very interesting because, at least with music, obviously most people stream their music or even their movies, but the option for physical is still there. But physical video games can go extinct, which is super interesting because if the big three only console manufacturers out there decide to cut out their disk drives or cut out their cartridge readers, then there's not going to be any other way to play video games other than digitally. So it would be the first entertainment medium to have physical media completely eradicated from being produced anymore, which would be super weird, and it makes me uncomfortable to think about because that's so weird because I could understand having the preference for digital or streaming or whatever, but to completely eradicate an entire option is kind of insane when you think about it.
At some point, this just came to me, at some point it's going to be just like when you're trying to watch a movie. Like maybe 30, 40 years from now, it's going to be like, oh, I really want to play... I need a non-exclusive example. I really want to play Grand Theft Auto 3. It's been a long time. Oh, where's that streaming now? Like, you're going to have to Google, where can I play Grand Theft Auto 3 if you don't own these games physically and a PS2 in the year 2050? Like, it's going to be ridiculous. It's just going to be passing around the licensing rights. Go ahead.
I think it might be a bit more of a dire situation even than that because... a majority of games are made proprietary to the machine that they're meant to be played on. So I think that there's going to be a lot more stuff that could possibly get lost to time if they're not keeping up with, like porting and remasters and those different kinds of things. I mean, anything from like PlayStation 4, Xbox, Switch generation onward is pretty much safe. But everything before that, I mean, I guess is kind of that way now regardless, but I feel like we get a lot of ports and remakes and remasters and stuff, so playing games in this original format is going to be interesting because that'll change everything if it goes to streaming the way that we do movies and TV now. I know Game Pass is kind of that way, but I don't know a lot of people that stream for Game Pass. Most people still download the games as far as I'm aware.
I don't think the infrastructure is quite there yet. It's still laggy. You still can't get any good resolution. You're playing in 360p when you stream.
I never had a problem with Stadia. Rest in peace. So
I was about to bring up
defender of
Stadia.
that since day one. You know what? Right here, baby.
Not handy.
This is the best controller ever made. I'm not even joking. It is incredible.
I'm
Go get yourself
that
a Stadia controller off of eBay. To play on your PC. It's what I use, so I have it right here. I always got that thing on me, baby.
That's amazing. Yeah, the Stadia, Amazon Luna, I think exists. I haven't heard a single thing about Amazon Luna.
Luna's trash, so.
And then Netflix is also trying. Samsung, you can pretty much play Xbox Game Pass without even owning an Xbox anymore. Like, you can just stream it from certain Samsung TVs. It's coming very quickly. But Stadia was just too soon, I think. Stadia had the right idea for maybe 5 years later, 10 years later.
That happens, unfortunately, Like, Sega was ahead of the time with a lot of their stuff. So, sometimes it's definitely possible to be too early.
I think that if games do go, when games do go extinct, I think that everything else is going to follow suit pretty quick after. Maybe not books, but comic books are probably just like barely profiting. I would have to imagine that comic books selling at $3.99 a pop every Wednesday cannot possibly be making a ton of money. And Marvel Unlimited is incredible. I mean, anything. There's no reason there's not a Marvel Unlimited for every single comic book out there. There's already streaming for TV shows, movies, and music, and I could totally see CDs following suit right after. I could totally see Blu-rays following right after as well. Nothing comes standard with a CD disc drive anymore. Like maybe some cars, but that's about it.
The only thing that comes with a CD disc drive now is your consoles. So.
And like if I popped a music CD into like a Series X or a PS5, would it even work?
No, they don't play CDs.
See, that it's incredible that Best Buy still sells like, I don't know, hundreds of different freaking albums. It's crazy. That's where we're headed, folks.
Yes, it's going to be interesting to see for sure. I'm not anti-digital by any means, but you know, it feels way more gross when you spend $70 for a digital game than a physical one, you know? At least you have something to show for it when you spend $70 for a physical game. Like, I bought Baldur's Gate 3 on PS5. Loving it. It's a great time. But it felt dirty spending $70 for a digital game. I was just like, oh, all the money's out of my account now. I'm just downloading something and there's nothing on my shelf. I'm kind of sad about it.
Yeah, I mean, when we're streaming stuff and Game Pass becomes the norm across all three of the big three, you probably won't have to buy many games, you know? It's just going to be, oh, that's a good game, I'll keep playing it, and I didn't have to spend anything more than my monthly fee to pay for the service. But
Big Daddy Phil wants you to download Starfield, no matter what it takes.
To your point, I just bought Super Bomberman R2 and hated it, and because I bought it physical, I can sell that. You know, that's something that I can do.
Who are you kidding?
I sell trash $50 brand new games because I'm not a Switch collector.
That's fair. I was gonna say, what about all that other trash you hold on to? You look behind you, you're like, yeah.
That's not something that's possible when you buy a digital game, and for that exact reason, GameStop's not going to exist anymore. Probably
they barely
would be
sell
a good
games
thing.
now anyway. I feel like I go to GameStop and I see more Funko Pops than games, and T-shirts.
I imagine GameStop's downfall will be a big up for retro game stores. You know, if physical media is dead, I think that retro game stores, that's probably the best thing they could ask for at this point.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if you had this as a talking point or not, but I think as a whole, probably games are going to go up in price on average, whether it be old or new or everything, once physical's totally out the door.
I think you're right. I'm trying to think of something to compare it to. I mean, if I don't have a movie that I want to watch, or if I Google, this has actually happened to me quite a few times recently in the last couple of years, but like if I go look to see where something is streaming and it's just like not available. Like there was this freaking TV show I wanted to watch and it just wasn't on any streaming service. And I went on Amazon and I looked at used copies of the full DVD set for this show. It was like $7, free shipping or some crap, and I bought it. I waited like a good week and a half for it to freaking show up, but it was like, okay, now I can watch this. And I don't know, it's interesting that I guess if there is a show or a movie that's in high demand, like something insane that people really love, like I don't know, Friends. If you couldn't stream Friends or The Office, that people would lose their minds. And I bet you the DVD sets that you constantly see for $2 at Goodwill would go through the roof on eBay because everyone would be like, I can't live without Friends. I can't live without The Office. I have to go buy these. And that's already what happens to video games because like we always talk about Sega Saturn, Panzer Dragoon Saga, you can't play that. You can't port that. You can't do either of those things I just said. And
no source code, baby.
And so things like that, you can't just stream that, you can't just play that anywhere. I imagine, to your point, it's going to be worse tenfold if when people really start to get nostalgic and they're like, oh yeah, I can't just scratch this itch with a remaster or a remake. Like, I need the actual thing. I've actually never thought about this, so I'm glad we're having this conversation. But I bet that this crap is just gonna freaking just continue to go up and up and up.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it's gonna be a more novel and interesting thing to get old video games when video games aren't a physical medium anymore either.
Yeah.
More people are gonna get into it. So buy your Ultimate Beach Soccers now, $10,000. Now's your chance.
Be able to
Don't
play
miss it. Can't play it now anyway.
That's all I got, Craig. Anything else?
No, I think I'm good. Don't buy Ultimate Beach Soccer. It's not worth it. I changed my
We're
mind.
not even on that episode anymore.
I know. But this will go to show if people are true fans and they watch every episode, they'll know what we're talking about.
There you go.
Perfect.
Come join the Discord. Come talk to Craig and I. Craig's about to finish his Vita set.
Yes, I never do this. Go subscribe to my YouTube channel because I'm 20 subscribers away from 200. Make it happen.
There's always a link to your channel in the description for those of you curious. You don't even have to go search it up. It's literally right there for you.
True, but I think I'm the one with the worst opinions of the two of us. So people usually are like, "Oh, I'll just say subscribe to this guy. It's fine." Like, I'll stick with Bird Dog Gaming.
Thank you guys for listening.
See y'all later.